Hello, 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 and good evening. Welcome to the Society, our weekly Vaesen RPG campaign. My name is Loki, and I will be your game master for these dark and thrilling tales. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you to this, the third episode of Chapter 1, and I hope that we delight, fright, and intrigue you with mystery and adventure. So without further ado, let's meet our cast.
Hey,
Hello.
it's us back again.
That's the best.
Well, I guess we'll do the
Introduce
intros then, shall we? Okay.
troublemakers.
We
I'll
still
go
need
first.
to. We're so
I'll go
known.
first. I'll go first, shall I? There we go. Hi, everyone. My name's Dan, also known as Div and Inc. My pronouns are they, them, and tonight I am playing the vagabond Dagmar Eriksson.
I am Matt. I'm playing Quentin Ludensberg, the private detective.
Hi, and I'm Gus, and I'll be playing Morton Thorsby, the servant.
We have a number of people we would like to thank for all the resources and contributions they have provided to tonight's episode. The link should appear in the Twitch chat or in the details below if you are catching up on our YouTube.
Our virtual tabletop tonight is the incredible Roll20, featuring their dynamic lighting feature, inbuilt character sheets, and virtual dice rollers. Go check them out at roll20.net. And in addition, our battle maps were created using Dungeon Fog and all the amazing assets that can be found there.
Our character art was created by the extremely talented Zhuzha, who you should go check out on Instagram at ZhuzhaUK. That's blah blah. I cannot use English language, sorry.
It's a blah, blah, blah.
ZSUZSAUK. Our game tokens and dice roller tokens come from the Vaesen RPG rulebook by Free League and from the artist Johan Egerkrans.
And music and ambient sounds throughout the stream come from Tabletop Audio and Kevin MacLeod at Incomputech, all provided by the Roll20 Jukebox. You can check these amazing artists out via their website sites at tabletopaudio.com and incomputech.com.
Hey, you did it!
I knew I would trip on the spelling at some point.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Incomputech is a really difficult word to say as well.
Yeah, it is a bit, but I mean, they do great music and great sound.
Yeah.
Now that we've got past the really awful bit, let's get into the intro. Alright, we've done our intro bit, and we've done the intro video, and we've said thank you to all the important people. I guess the next thing, and probably the most important, is for us to get underway with our story. So, a quick recap on where we are so far. Our investigators, our intrepid bunch of budding detectives, have begun in earnest the investigation of the murder in the town of Borgund. Arriving here by train while on a journey to a distant town of Hedal, the train has been stopped by the local authorities following a grisly murder in the town. To prevent anyone from escaping the scene of the crime, the train has been halted and is not allowed to leave until it has permission from the authorities. Luckily for the local constabulary, a national hero, a national treasure, a great detective
It may.
was aboard the train with a cunning and intriguing bunch of comrades. Having already investigated the scene of the crime, our intrepid investigators head out into the town field to go and speak to the locals to see if they can get answers to the plethora of questions that plague their minds. And so, having just visited the mill, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
having just visited the Kirkby Wool Mill, our investigators find themselves not with more answers, but potentially more questions. I
Now we
believe,
get our tour.
I believe,
We were just
I was
about to
say,
go,
I
yeah.
believe you've got yourself a tour.
Mm-hmm. Can we stop by the gift shop as well on the way out?
Maybe they sell little models of the mill that we can take away with us.
Right.
It's like a woolen tea cozy or something.
Either that or they sell little bags of cyanide.
Ah.
That would make our job easier.
Okay, so we begin tonight's episode with the investigators starting the tour of the wool mill. So, you head out of this little block of offices via a door from reception, following your guide. He leads you into the wool mill proper. As you step out of this sort of little officey section and into the mill, you are assaulted with the clamour and clatter of machinery. The mill itself is one large open space, and it is clearly divided into specific functional areas. One area is for the processing of the wool, and the smell of the washing fluids and the preserving agents and the dyeing chemicals assaults you almost immediately, with this being sort of the closest area to where you enter into the mill. It then goes almost in a clockwise fashion, with the wool being washed, dyed, and then going through its various phases of spinning until it comes at the end of the line to a sort of final product, whether that is wool fibers all the way to wool fabric, so bolts of fabric, and all the various woolen items in between there. Your guide leads you through the wool mill, shouting at the top of his voice, trying to explain to you the various stages and processes that are going on in the wool mill, giving you a rather robust tour that might be a little bit too much information almost. The wool mill is full of people, all of them busy and hard at work at their various stations and pieces of machinery. The clatter, the clamour, is unrelenting, and you find yourselves beginning to deafen at such volume of all the machinery in this room. That kind of that kind of like muffled deafening that you get if you're at a club. You know the one. Except this is nowhere near as fun, being caused by all this machinery. Your guide says at the various different stations, do you have any questions before we move on?
Did we see the machine, by the way, that Mr. Kirkby would have possibly been referring to as the accident site?
The room is filled with various different types of machinery, and none of it looks particularly safe.
Okay.
In fact, if Mr. Kirkby had an accident in here with a machine, you feel a little bit like he's probably lucky to still have his limbs.
Okay.
Like, health and safety is not a thing in this era.
On a similar note, I will look at the form and be like, have you had many accidents recently? They do look rather dangerous bits of kit.
He nods and says, yep, can be really dangerous if you get too close. But, and he points over to the wall, and on the wall you can see there is a board that says number of days since last incident, and they are currently sitting at a pretty 46.
Ooh.
Are there any like shop floor workers nearby?
Yes, the place is clamoring and it's almost crawling with them. When you look at the machinery and the people, it's like some gargantuan skeleton or corpse that is being infested by the people who work at it, within it, near it, around it, on it, beneath it.
Would we get the impression that pretty much everybody in the village works here?
Judging from the number of people in the mill, yeah, it's very likely. If they're not involved in something, if they're not involved with the church, the train line, or food, they're here.
Yeah.
So, of all the people on the shop floor, are there anyone nearby that maybe is working either in isolation or is looking particularly fed up and alone?
Yes. Take your pick. None of the people working in this mill seem particularly overjoyed to be in here, and they are quite spread out, as they seem to be tending the machines, feeding the machines. So all the people are fairly spread out. It's not like a production line of people sitting next to each other. They're kind of almost tending to this behemoth of a creature that is the machinery.
So, while obviously Quentin and Morton are quizzing the tour guide, Dagmar's just going to take a sidestep to the nearest worker that's looking like they're alone, just out of earshot, just to have a little chat, just to see how they are and how they feel about their current work.
Absolutely. You sidle up to this worker. She is she seems to be feeding fleeces into a machine that consists of what looks to be a huge barrel that is covered in hundreds and hundreds of like nails or needles, and in front of her there is like a great array of matching kind of these nails, and the drum is spinning around, and she is feeding fleeces into it and it seems to be shredding the fleeces and getting all the fibers pointing in the same direction. It's a rather ominous-looking machine that gives you, as you get close to it, it feels like a gaping maw of razor teeth that just this woman is placating by feeding it these offerings of fleece that are just shredded.
So on approach, Dagmar's just gonna sort of stand quite close, watching what this woman is doing, and just say, "This looks like complicated and dangerous work."
She doesn't even sort of take her eyes off of the machine. Like, it's almost like she doesn't register Dagmar's presence, but you hear her voice kind of try and shout out over the hubbub and clamour of this machine, and she says, "Yep, one wrong move and it'll have your arm."
And it must take some skill to work in a role like this. How long have you been working in this position?
Since I was old enough to work.
And the people who run this place, do they treat you well?
Well enough, I guess. The hours are long and the pay isn't great, but it's a job. Puts food on the table.
Do you have a large family to feed?
Not too large. I decided 2 children was quite enough. No one needs a horde. Unless you're Mrs. Anders. Yeah, she lives next door to us. She's just had her 12th.
Wow. That is quite an army of children.
Yes. My husband and I decided that the children shouldn't outnumber the grown-ups.
I can understand that.
Yes, if it was going to be a battlefield, it should be equal-sided.
And you say they treat you well enough here. What's your relationship like with the manager?
Hardly see him, if I'm honest. We see the foreman gives us jobs, we do the jobs. Very rarely see the brass out here on the floor.
And the foreman? Does the foreman treat you well?
Yeah, foreman's one of us. Although, he's doing a job too. And if the workload goes up, he's gotta make it work.
So you're working in here every day. You've never seen the manager here? Remind me what his name is again.
Mr. Kirkby?
That's the one.
Nope. I haven't seen him on the floor in some time.
Does his wife ever frequent the factory?
Occasionally, but not in a while. Not since the incident.
Oh. What incident was that?
But it's all rather... Well, this is just what I've heard from the town, I dare say. But their child became very ill quite suddenly.
Well, that's always sad to hear.
Yes. It is always sad when children become unwell. Particularly if they do not seem to recover.
Yeah, that is particularly sad. Did you also hear of the incident that happened just up the road from here? The poor lady who died in the night?
Yes, but it's all rather hush-hush.
I'm sure a busy working factory floor such as this, people must be talking about it.
We would be, if we could hear one another.
It's a good point. Question, GM. I can't remember. Do I have any coins upon my person?
Oh, that is a good question. What is so if you pop your character sheet open, you should find that you have a box called resources. What is the number in the box?
2.
2. Okay, so in Vaesen, there isn't money, so they've got rid of the sort of the concept of using money in the game, and they use something called resources. Resources is a score from 1 to I think 10. 1 being destitute and 10 being like unfathomably wealthy. With 2, Dagmar is sitting at poor. So it's likely that you would have some sort of shrapnel about your person, but it's going to be money that you have either begged for, borrowed, or stolen.
Okay, that makes sense. But definitely, at the moment, not really enough to try and buy favour.
No, you would not have a bribe about your person.
Depends how poor they are.
Yeah, well, this person's already said that they're earning enough to feed their family, so I don't think I could do anything to sway that in any way, so that's fine.
Secret
Dagmar's going to now start to back off, having disturbed this person, but before they do, Dagmar's just going to say, well, you clearly are very busy, and I've distracted you far too much. Our party are currently investigating something that's happened in this village, and I believe some of the more well-to-do folks in this village are taking advantage of those who are not so well-to-do. And I want to shift that balance. If you hear anything and you feel so inclined, please do feel free to come and talk to me about it.
Oh, give me. It's
Viva
going to
la
be an
revolution.
inspiration. It's going to be an inspiration roll.
Is it? It's not
Yes.
manipulation.
No, I think this is more inspirational than manipulation. But I am going to give you a +1 bonus to your roll because it's the people talking to the people.
The people.
Les Miserables.
Boosh.
Oh, nice.
Ooh, check it.
Hey.
Don't use them all at once, though. We might need some of
Yeah.
those later.
Save some
That's
for
true.
Quentin. Save some for Quentin.
As you go to leave, this woman hurls a fleece into this machine, which is promptly devoured by its jaws. And she turns to look at you as she takes a step away from the machine and turns to look at you. And she says, "Oh, before you go, in answer to your question," and she surreptitiously kind of like beckons you over with her hand, and she then grabs another fleece and goes to throw it in the thing. And this pause and response to your question immediately kind of piques your interest.
Is there more going on here that would help us? That would definitely help us to help you, the community.
As you draw in a little closer, she says, I don't know if you are the right kind of folk to deal with this problem. I would advise that you carry on with your journey wherever you are going as quickly as possible. None of us are safe here.
You might be surprised by our expertise. You know, they always say,
my house is the third on the right, just past the church. You can't miss it. I have red flowers growing outside. Come later. If you think you can help.
at the very least, I think we can try to help. And I think in this circumstance, it can't hurt to try.
You see, she's, and again, she's working at the machine, so she's not looking at you as she's talking to you. She turns to grab another fleece, which she throws in, but she pauses for a second, and she gives you a look that she is afraid. And she has that desperation in her eyes. And she hurls the fleece into the machine.
For the moment, I would say just continue to stay safe. You are doing a wonderful job. If there's anyone in this village we should be wary of, by all means, please do let me know. And I will do my very best to subtly pop by and visit you this evening.
You see she's nodding at the machine as she's sort of negotiating this contraption.
And I think Dagmar's just going to allow this person to continue with their work and return to the main party.
Okay. You have progressed around the wool mill and are now at the end of the line, and the guide takes you into what looks a little bit like a shed indoors. And as you go into this shed, it's quite roomy. There's more than enough space for the three of you and the guide, and you can see it is filled with fabric swatches and balls of wool and small bags of fibre. And the guide sort of talks you through all the products that they make, and they've got all these little samples of all the products.
Would you mind just letting me know where do you get your dyes from for all these various products?
Depends on the colour. We get some we buy in from various villages and towns in the local area, but many of our dyes are made by... And you see his face grows a little sad as he says, Benedicta. God rest her soul.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Yes. Well, were you expecting a delivery of dyes from her recently? As in today or yesterday?
Yes, we were expecting some blue dyes this morning. Or was it late yesterday evening?
And who would normally collect those dyes, or would they be delivered to you?
Benedicta brings her dyes. She delivers them to the wool mill and takes payment at the door.
And if she was not to show, as she may well have done this morning, with the situation as it was, who would be sent to collect those? Would it be yourself, or one of the workers, or what would normally happen?
Well, normally I'd rustle up one of the workers and send them over to make sure she was okay.
And did that happen today, this morning, when you hadn't received your delivery?
No. Mr.
So,
Kirk, who told me what had happened, that the crime had been committed. I have enough information that I could keep the workforce happy and productive.
But you'd not at that point chosen to chase up the order of dye yourself.
No, but
Yeah,
Mr.
only
Kirk, who had dealt with it before I was even aware.
And did
And
you... Oh. Sorry, after you, dear Morton.
Thank you. So, would he normally step in on these occasions? Does he help out like that a lot, either on the shop floor or getting deliveries?
Not usually, no. I was a bit surprised this morning.
Okay, and he doesn't appear on the floor to do any work and use any of the machines at all.
No, absolutely not. That's what the workers are for.
Oh, of course, yes, I totally understand. Thank you. Quentin, I believe you had a question.
Yes, what will you do in light of not obviously receiving this wool, the dye order for the wall?
Well, it means
Stuff of interest.
we won't be able to dye this batch the right colour.
It is a real shame what happened. It is a real shame. What a waste.
Yes, quite. Very sad for the village as a whole.
Would you know who lives in the houses opposite to Benedicta's?
Well, the large house opposite Benedicta's is for the Anders family. There's quite a lot of them.
Okay. And does Mr. Anders work here? I believe while we were upstairs, did we see a name? His name on the door somewhere?
Believe so.
Yes.
And what does he do here, or she?
Well, Mr. Anders is one of the bosses. I think together they call themselves the board.
You obviously seemed quite fond of Benedicta. Do you know if there was anyone that stood to gain from her being out of the picture? Any rivalries, local, dye mills, or anyone that had overlapping interests?
No, I can't think of anything like that. She was a wonderful member of the community. At first, she's an outlander. She's not born and bred Borgund. She came here some years ago But over the years, she has integrated into the community and is... Well, her loss will be felt by us all.
Shut
Who,
up.
who lives in the other houses opposite Benedicta's, next to the Anders?
Well, one of the neighbours... We've got... We've got the Eriksson family. Mrs. Eriksson is on the floor. She's over there. And he points in the direction of the woman that Dagmar had spoken to.
Oh yes, of course. She's very talented at what she does. What's her first name again?
Please hold, caller. Your call is very important to her.
You can rule out it wasn't them. He doesn't know the name off by heart.
I will call her Steve.
Lady Steve.
I'll call her Steve. Her name is Lena. Lena Eriksson.
Of course.
And the other house?
Is the Argard family.
Well, thank you. Are any of the Argards work here? Are they any of those?
No.
here?
Nope. They are enjoying the golden years of their lives.
Ah. Thank you.
The dream. In this world, is the golden years the same, or is it much younger? Are they like 35? And that's
Hey! Hey! Hey!
I
back
mean,
in the day. People
golden
died way
years-
earlier.
Golden years in this time period, we are talking 60.
Okay.
60 is old.
35.
I mean, I'm glad because Quentin's 34. So if you said it was 40, you'd be like, well, time to pack up. It was 2 days from retirement.
Well, no, your tour has been most informative, and your assistance and knowledge of the townsfolk has been very helpful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. We'll endeavour to put your help to good use.
Out of curiosity, for how long is your mill open every day? What time do you close for an evening?
We close when the work is done.
I see.
Let's make it hard for tea time.
We do have a break. If we're to overrun into the evening, we do have a break. Hunger reduces productivity, after all.
It certainly does to me.
I'm guessing today may be a slower day with the massive lack of dying resources you've encountered after the unfortunate incidents.
No, quite the opposite. We carry on as normal. We've switched to making a green batch instead of blue.
I see.
Oh, very efficient. Very efficient. Well done.
Yes, well, as sad as the events are, we cannot let them eat into profits.
Well, again, thank you for your time. I think. Well,
Yes.
I don't know about the others. I think we should be moving on. We've got a lot to dig into while we're here to find out a little bit more.
Yes. Before we head off, though, you said she was well liked. Was there any close family or very close friends that she kept, or was it kind of a equal level of friendship shared out through the whole town?
She was very friendly with everybody, but there never seemed to be someone special. And it would be rude to inquire as to the friendships of a lady.
Quite
Of
right.
course. We thank you for your time.
I don't know about you, gents, but all this talk of tea has made me somewhat hungry.
I believe it's probably getting to that sort of time of day. Maybe it will help our brains to go and get some food.
I'm starting to get a pounding headache from this noise level. I don't know how you deal with it, Foreman.
Well, if I'm honest, the longer I spent here, the deafer I became.
Perfect system.
Yes, adaptation.
Thank you. Hope your day is as good as it can be in light of the news.
Yes, well, enjoy your evening.
I'm sure we shall have a very productive one, just like yourself.
And he nods to you, and he leads you from the sort of sample shed. And he leads you back into reception, where he says his last farewell and heads back into the mill. And the receptionist kind of assists in your extrication from the premises. And we return to our adventurers on the streets of Borgund. Now, as you come out of the wool mill, you realise that actually it now is definitely evening. With the investigation at the house, the questioning at the mill, and the tour, seems to have brought you all the way into early evening. And judging from the clock and from your rumbling stomachs, it is definitely like tea time. If not, you could push it out for maybe an hour, then it would be dinner time.
So, while we stood outside, is it obvious to see from outside the building when the mill is working?
Yes.
So you can see like smoke billowing up somewhere, or so from anywhere in the village you can see when the mill is active.
Yes, absolutely. So there's there are a few vents where steam pours out of them, where they're boiling up the wool, and even from outside you can hear it. Like you can hear the sort of muffled clamour and clatter of the machinery, and there are several patches in the walls of the factory where you can see the machinery is either abutted up against the wall or is actually fully supported by the wall, and you can see there are a few things that are rotating in the wall where the supports actually are have been built into the wall to support the whole thing. So you can certainly see from a quick glance if the mill is on the go or not.
And that's from anywhere in this village, you could probably tell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, that was quite a experience.
Yes, it was. Yes. I don't know whether It's clear that Mr. Kirkby is involved in some way.
Mhm.
I don't know whether it's worth us confronting him. He's clearly lied to us. Clearly from the start. We don't know what he has told us is truth or not. And the foreman or the guide didn't seem to be aware that Mr. Kirkby was going to go and check for dyes. So why did Mr. Kirkby go there? Because the dye was a story, as in not a reason.
Indeed.
And according to
Did
the
you-
lovely Lena Eriksson, who I may have spoken to quietly, he has not been on that factory floor for a very long time.
Yes.
Something
well, he said-
isn't sitting right with her. She's very scared of something. I would like to pay her a visit, but I'm going to wait until she returns to her home.
Those scratches definitely came from someone on his arms, but it does tie up with what we did see on Benedicta, but it did. Unfortunately, that's not proof enough. Could have come from anyone, especially if he has a sick wife or child. You know how children can be. But that was a lot.
And I think he was. Well, we know he was there. He found the body, but I have a feeling he was there either when she died or while she was dying. Whether he was involved is another matter.
Mm.
But why lie if there was not something suspicious going on?
His reasons for being there definitely don't seem to have been pure, but as you say, doesn't
did
necessarily mean he was there to kill her. Or
No.
that he did. Just he's ashamed of or hiding whatever he was doing there.
Maybe it's to do with his wife.
Searched.
There could be the possibility that his wife had gone to visit. That's why there was only 2 cups, and he was going to find his wife.
Something tells me there's more to this that we haven't found out.
We do need to speak to the wife if possible, but there is definitely something else going on.
Another
Maybe the
concern.
Hexjäger knows something. If they've been in the house and seen the wife and child.
We do not yet know really what afflicts the child.
No.
Something concerned me in what Mr. Kirkby said. He said, I got the impression he may have favour with the policing people who are working in this village. I don't know to what scale. But something doesn't feel right. I propose we don't divulge all of our information yet.
Yes. Wait until we have concrete proof that can't be ignored.
Yes, I think that definitely sounds like a way forward.
And if that is the case, it means us 3 are the only ones that will truly do what it takes to get to the bottom of this.
But first, drinks.
Very
Yes.
important step in an investigation.
Yes, we need to feed our brains. Question to the GM. Can we still get fed and buy drinks on the train?
Yes.
Can we still get all that if we want to?
Yes, absolutely. So the current arrangement is anyone who holds a ticket to travel between Borgund and Hedal has got the full services on the train as normal. Anybody who does not have a ticket, so basically anyone who got off at Borgund, is just, you have to fend for yourselves. Now, a couple of passengers from the train have maneuvered themselves into the hotel, which is opposite the railway station, to sleep there instead of on the train. But all the services of the train are still available, including your rooms, food.
Well, I suggest we head back to the train. We've
Yes.
already paid for our train ticket. We can get our food, and we can take a moment to recap and understand where we need to go next. If everyone is happy with that.
Yes. I think so. I think it may be worth, if we can, maybe taking shifts somewhere nearish to Benedicta's house tonight and see if anyone comes back.
That might be an idea. Maybe it would be worth our while camping out at Benedicta's house.
But
Fine.
we must all get some sleep as well. Yeah, this tired mind is useless on a case like this.
Let's seek nourishment first.
Yes.
It may be
Let's.
possible. It may be possible to seek favour with the Ericsson household. Maybe they can help us.
If they are close by, maybe. If we are nice enough, we could camp out looking out a window there.
To the train!
To the train.
What's our symbol that flashes up on the screen when we transition to the train?
Well, actually, it's not really a symbol, but it's more of like a blah, 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 blah. as I switch you from map to just us as a gang. All right. So, you arrive back at the railway station where the train is residing, and you hop on to the train. I'm gonna put the train ambiance back on. As you arrive back at the train, there are a couple of interesting constructions that have been put together on the platform. It looks like two, not tents, more marquee. They've been set up on the platform, and you can see inside each one there is a desk and some chairs arranged around. And you realise as you come up onto the platform that these two marquees must be acting as their pop-up questioning rooms, as Ranhilda said that the local constabulary would deal with the questioning of all the passengers on the train. When you get on the train, it has a strange atmosphere. It is restless. There is a strong and pervasive feeling throughout the whole train that today has seen anger, shouting, exhaustion, fear, frustration. It feels like there is a lot of social unrest simmering within the carriages. It hasn't boiled over, and there doesn't seem to be any signs of unrest per se, but the tension, you could cut it with a knife. As you maneuver around the carriages, heading towards the dining car or the bar car, whichever you intend to go to first, the other passengers that you pass, everyone looks agitated some way.
Do we get the impression as we sort of that this is understandably it would be annoying, but do we get an impression there might be, I don't know, unnatural in any way or over the top more than we would expect people to be upset? And does everybody seem to be upset, or are some people more resigned to the fact, or is it just the overall feeling that we get that?
It's the overall feeling that you get, looking and judging from the peephole. There is an array of sort of auras around people. Like, you can see several people have just sort of shrugged their shoulders and been like, well, this is an unfortunate delay, but there's nothing I can do about it. There have been others who clearly at some point today did the, like, anger, rage, shouting, the fury at being delayed, at being questioned, at being involved, and there are going to be some people who are noticeably kind of afraid, like the idea that there may be a murderer aboard the train clearly has there is another thought that is being passed through the train, that they are looking for a murderer and that person might be aboard. Therefore, is anyone on the train safe? So there's a real mixture, and it's this mixture of emotional states that have been experienced throughout the day, are still being experienced, and the end of which is unknown. It is all of this that has created this palpable tension aboard.
Sure, okay, fine.
Do you head towards the bar car or the dining car first?
Food.
Yeah,
Is my vote.
I believe we can get alcohol at the same time as we can get food, so we may as well go to the dining car and have our evening meal and mull over what our approach should be going forward, and maybe have a couple of glasses of wine with that.
Always the best ideas from
Oh
Morton.
yes.
The dining car, when you arrive, the dining car is actually quite busy. You clearly have hit the kind of peak dining time.
Should have made a reservation.
But the it's a different person again. There's a different maitre d', another head waiter who greets you, and this time it is a woman, and she is wearing exactly the same kind of bow tie dinner suit that the head waiters had from the evening before and the morning had been wearing, and it's definitely giving her this very kind of this very intensely fashionable kind of Parisian sort of very chic look, and it takes you a moment to realize that she actually is the head waitress, and that this isn't like a very stylish passenger. She navigates you to a table. You quite literally jump into the coffins of the previous occupants of the table, as the waitress is clearing the table of their glasses as you are being seated, and you then get the little hubbub of the table being cleared, it being wiped down, the settings being placed around you, as your drinks order and the menus are kind of foisted onto you. And you can definitely tell you've come at bang in the middle of peak time, and the waiting staff are like literally dancing through the dining car in this elaborate and quite complicated masterpiece of organisation and manoeuvring around such a small space.
Okay. So, our plans going forward. Any ideas? We still have people to talk to.
I would like to get back out there this evening.
I think we need to. We need to try and keep hot on the trail if we can.
Yes, definitely. I believe Dagmar, you said you possibly had a lead. We obviously still have the Hexjäger, and don't know if we want to try the Kirkby residence before Mr. Kirkby gets back one more time, or cut our losses and try again tomorrow there.
I certainly do want to visit the worker who I spoke to today. They're clearly troubled by something. They didn't want to speak about it in the workplace. They invited me round to discuss with them something that's concerning everyone in the village. They're clearly scared. I think it's important we understand why.
Definitely. Most definitely.
One thing that certainly won her favour was siding with the people in this village who maybe are not of the well-off society. I suspect the working people of this village may be under some kind of intimidating threat. If you think it proper, I'd be happy to go to visit this person on my own and then join you gents later.
To be honest, I was close to suggesting the same thing myself. I feel that, yes, as you said, your way of talking with the people may go down better than me turning up at the door. If they are scared of what the upper class have been doing here, then I may not be a very trustworthy paragon.
Which I, of course, know is not true. However, I think in this case, I think a degree of tact and not involving people who classify as the elite would be a sensible approach if we're going to get the most information.
I think it would help us to cover more ground. I'm just a little concerned about splitting ourselves up again. We did that in the house, it was a little bit safer. I'm concerned that breaking us apart, leaving people on their own, although you say this lady seems trustworthy and maybe scared, but we don't know whether that's a ruse to get you there, or we don't know her intentions at all, and to go on your own may be foolhardy.
How about I introduce you as my security when walking the village at night on my own? Doesn't mean you have to come in the house. You say our splitting up was safer in Benedicta's house. However, I was distinctly alone when said body turned and looked at me.
Yes, I forgot. I'm sorry, yes.
We can always see if they're amenable to the thought of us being there.
Allow me to speak to her. I'm sure she will be fine. She knows that we are working together.
Yeah, well, if we all walk together there, and we can leave you there, and then we carry on to somewhere else, like you say, we can be your security on the way to the house, and then we shall move on at a later stage to wherever we choose to go next.
Just try not to get murdered. It would be a shame.
That's always a benefit, trying not to get murdered.
Much easier case, though.
Does make things easier while people are not dead.
I'll try my best.
That's all we ask. Rule 1, if you want to be a detective.
What?
don't get murdered.
Before I can go there, though, I need to keep eyes on the mill. She won't be home until they stop working, so we can continue investigating, but once I see that that mill has stopped working, I propose we go to the Ericsson house.
Maybe worth asking any of the officers on the platform quickly if they learnt anything from those on the train. From what you were saying about them possibly being in Kirkaby's pocket, we may have to take anything they say with a pinch of salt, but even when people lie to you, there can be some truth hidden in there.
Definitely have Morton with you when you ask that question. This fine gent seems to be a bloodhound for lies.
And investigating footprints.
Like, as Dagmar was saying that, she's sort of saying it with a small degree of snide and looking over their glass, knowing full well that Morton's clocked something's not right about Dagmar.
Morton is not going to rise this time to just carry on with his meal. So, what about this Hex Jaeger? Oh, do we need to go and speak to them because it's odd that they are in. It just seems too much of a coincidence that things are happening in the village, are strange in the village, and they are around at the same time.
Agreed.
They've also had contact with Mr. Kirkaby's family, which is something we have been unable to do so far. So,
Yes, that may give us a much better insight into both the child and the wife.
from what I know of them, they're less likely to be bribed by him, or we can see.
I'm assuming we have food at this point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Dagmar's just stopped talking and is like, not even with any degree of class, is just shoveling food in their mouth. Like,
Just buy soup because you can just pour.
Dagmar's very aware that there's tasks to be done afterwards, but is also frighteningly hungry, so is taking full advantage while they can.
And the
No,
meal
we don't-
is delicious, like it was the night before. The chef on the train is clearly, quite well skilled, and the menu is noticeably similar to the night before. In fact, it's identical. There are a couple of different There's a couple of things that have been changed about. Where they've been able to source things from Borgund. So there is still fresh bread and butter, but the bread is much darker than it was the night before, and the butter is it's much paler as well. So you know that they've been able to restock a few things like bread and butter from the town, but the majority of the menu has had to remain the same.
Dagmar's also just in a napkin, just going to take is it like a loaf or is it like rolls?
It's been
Taking the bread rolls.
It's been sliced.
Okay.
You imagine that it was probably several loaves, and they've been sliced, and then the butter has been served in like a
butter pat.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Dagmar's just gonna like wrap some of this bread up, enough to feed a small family, and just keep it to one side.
Fair.
Yeah. Gotta respect that.
And the meal is delicious. As you come to the end of your meal, you do notice that the waiting staff are hovering a little bit, as you're obviously not at the tail end of the peak. You are in the middle, and so the waiting staff, do start hovering around. Not impolitely, but there's definitely that feeling of sort of like, it would be great if you could finish up your nosh so we can sit someone else at the table.
I was going to give a different way of defining that, but yours is more family friendly.
Can we see other people waiting?
No, but you have seen a few people come into the dining car, speak to the head waitress, and then kind of turn around and leave, where she's obviously said something like, I don't know, come back in 10 minutes or something.
Okay. Are there any people in here that one we recognise from the night before, similar people, or are they all mostly new, or what?
The majority of the other diners in the dining car are not familiar faces, but slightly recognisable in they are passengers you have seen aboard. That, like, maybe you glanced them the night before or during the day, or you've walked past them. But there are a few faces that you don't recognise at all, suggesting that there have been a few new passengers board the train, even though the train isn't going anywhere.
Are we platform side or other side?
You are the other side.
Bollocks.
But I mean, it's not that far if you think about the width of a train. Like, you would easily, you could do the thing of, like, surreptitiously, you know, sort of, and peer and see onto the platform.
Yeah,
Which
from
is
the
becoming
seats.
quite dim, and is
Yeah.
as you're finishing your meals, you're heading into that beautiful kind of, not quite twilight, but heading in that direction. Because very long days in Norway. You guys, you're still, you're past the summer solstice, so the days are getting shorter, but they're still quite long.
Yeah, I'd have sat so that I could kind of see onto the platform without doing, like, over the top looking, so kind of like the chair that faces the most towards that window to see if anything is going on out there.
And there isn't. The platform is pretty quiet.
Well, shall we make a move? It'll be a long night ahead of us, and
Yes, I think we should make a move and start finding some more things to investigate. Even if we end up having to stake out Benedict's house, it's going to be a long night, isn't it? So, yes, it might be worth our while, even though the captain said they were going to talk to the passengers. It might be worth our while trying to find out new passengers boarding from Borgen, just in case our killer is looking to get away from the town.
that is
Find out how many.
idea.
You said that there's a hotel. The hotel's opposite the train station, right?
Yes.
And is that a place that also has like a tavern? So like the village would go there for a drink in the evening
Yeah,
as well?
absolutely. It doubles up as both. It is. It's like an old coach house inn sort of arrangement, which would make sense because this is probably the closest train station for quite some distance. Although trains aren't brand new to Norway, the spread of rail lines and systems is very slow because Norway is not it's not hugely conducive to long, flat constructions. So it takes a long time to build a railroad or a train line because there has to be significant considerations about what's the longest distance they can get without having to drill through a mountain, or like can they how can they get over a mountain range, what's the lowest point, what's the easiest way. And so the train lines in Norway, there aren't that many of them. So there tends to be like a branching sort of, lots of people will come here by carriage and then get on the train. So there's going to be like this sort of carriage house in kind of taverny hotel kind of place where, you know, as people are arriving from outlying villages and even further afield, they have somewhere to stay while they wait for the train.
So Dagmar's going to slightly just move all this wrapped bread into the knapsack, stand up, and are we ready, gents? Shall we continue with this investigation?
I just need 2 seconds, and there's a tradition I have that I have, in the excitement of this morning, failed to do, and I'll just give me 2 minutes. And then Quentin will sort of quickly head to the bar car, where he will order a small sort of like glass of whiskey, and buy a cigar, which he will then have unlit and take back to his room, and just leave like the glass of whiskey in his room, and then the cigar there, waiting for the end of the case. So the longer he takes to solve the case, the worse the whiskey is going to taste.
That's amazing.
Right, let's continue.
As we step off the train, can we see the village itself? Like, is the mill still going?
The mill is not going by this point.
Ooh.
Can I, before we move on, is there any, like, is there a guard on the train, or would I know who to speak to find out who has boarded the train or got tickets?
Interestingly, there are a few police officers stationed on the platform who are kind of, anyone who tries to get on or off the train is getting not quite accosted, but the police officers are coming over and being like, who are you, where are you going, like, why are you getting off the train, or why are you getting onto the train? Basically, the platform has become a border between the town and the train, and anyone trying to cross the platform is being questioned by these police officers who are standing guard.
So it definitely looks like the police have got this in hand, of people getting on the train and getting off the train and reboarding.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as you try to get off the train, they politely explain to you that you aren't allowed to get off the train, and it isn't until you explain the situation that you're assisting in the investigation that they then let you continue. And so you realise that people are being almost not quite held prisoner on the train, but they are not allowed to leave the train.
But that.
Yeah.
It's not that, but it is that.
Yeah, pretty much. Which does give you the sensation that the constabulary still think that the most likely suspect is someone on the train.
Excuse me, officers, while we have you, is there anything useful learnt from the questioning today, do you know?
Afraid not. I'm standing guard on the platform. I've just been doing, please stay on the train, or madam, it's your turn to be questioned, come this way.
Sure, you've done a fine job of that. Thank you for telling us what you know.
It is my job, and thank you for assisting us. It is good to know we have the assistance of Such a fine detective.
Yes, Morton has turned out to be quite a fine detective.
I believe he was talking about you, Quentin, sir.
Oh, yeah.
You're the man with the reputation.
Not a big fan of compliments, but I guess I need to get used to that nowadays. Thank you. Gives like an awkward little, like really rigid, like head bow to the officer.
The captain will be back in the morning. You can ask her if there's any pertinent information for your case.
Thank you. Where have they gone for this evening?
And you see, you see this constable look really kind of awkward, like he wants to tell you, he wants to give you an answer, but he doesn't actually know, and it's that realization that he doesn't know, and he doesn't know what to tell you, and there's that little moment where he kind of clearly like goes through a little Rolodex of answers, trying to find one that he can give you, and in the end he goes, she's clocked off for the day.
Thank you. Who is she left in charge?
The constables have been given their jobs to hold the fort for the night, so to speak.
So, just one question. If, for any reason, the captain was required urgently, you are telling us you don't know how to contact him.
We would ring through to the constabulary office, and they would daisy chain the message along. I am not privy to the captain's private contact numbers.
Thank you. Where is the constabulary based in the town? Is it easy to identify? I don't believe we've passed it as yet.
The constabulary office isn't in the town.
Ah, and the captain would not live in the town either? Does she come from outside of the town?
So, to chuck a piece of context over to you, in this era, you are looking at you would have a constabulary office in a town that would then have it would have a district that it was responsible for looking after. There would be maybe one or two constabulary placed in each of the towns or villages, depending on the size, within that district. And then should there be a need for additional law enforcement, they then coordinate that by head office. So it's more of like a centralized system rather than not every town will have its own its own office.
Okay, yeah, makes sense, I suppose.
He answers, and he says, "Well, I don't know for certain, but I would imagine that the captain lives." I would imagine that the captain lives in Lairdal, which is where the head office is.
Thank you for your information. That's
Thank you.
may come in helpful.
Maybe she had an important date that she couldn't miss.
Maybe.
You
Maybe.
see this you now realise quite young constable, and you see that he is blushing at the sort of quite candid conversation about the captain.
Well, thank you. We'll be on our way. We've got
Yes.
much to do this evening.
And you head out of the train station. Now let's bring up the map. So just move you along a tiny bit. So you're here at the train station. The sort of hotel inn, I'll put it here, hotel/inn, is this building just opposite.
The Hexiager was at the church,
Yep,
right?
which is this big sort
The
of
thing
big,
that isn't.
Big
yeah.
shed with the sheep.
The thing with the sheep.
Yeah.
They're not sheep, everybody. But I'll grant you, they do look a bit sheepy from a distance.
Very organised sheep.
Yeah, very
little
organised.
scattering of Rice Krispies on the map.
Social distanced sheep.
Socially distant.
And then if there's a wall mill here, maybe all, the gravestones are sheep-shaped.
Maybe.
I mean, that's
It's like a little
commitment.
quirk.
That would be an intense commitment by the village folk.
Hey, with all the wool, actually, it's probably a good place to keep all the sheep in the graveyard. They can keep the grass cut down, can't they? And, you know, easy to catch them and shear them and get the wool to the mill.
Maybe we should, put this idea forth.
Maybe we should stick to investigating.
Detectives,
Maybe.
investigators, like lean Six Sigma,
Yes, yeah.
continuous improvement operators.
We're not we're CI, not DI.
And this is it, everyone. Like our multifaceted characters creation.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so you've got the hotel and the inn. Smoke lazily rises from the chimney, and you've got the warm. There's the warm light inside, and it's not rowdy. You can't. It's not like you can hear the hubbub and the talking and the things, but you can see in through the windows that there are quite a few people who have gathered in the tap room of the inn and are, socialising and drinking.
And given you said it was like getting in for like twilight hours, it's what, like 8 p.m, 9 p.m?
Yeah, we're about 8, 9, I'd say.
Yeah, to be fair, if the Erickson family have kids, we don't want to, hit them at bedtime. Like...
I also don't think we have time to perform both within what would be deemed socialised hours.
Yeah. I feel there are 3 main locations, which is the church for the Hexiager, the hotel inn to try and get the intel from drunk people, and the Ericksons would probably be my main.
I think
the big 3.
Dagmar's very, very conscious of the rapport they have managed
to
quickly put together with the Ericksons. So I think what Dagmar will lean towards is suggesting that in this case we do split up. If we think the hotel inn is worth at least listening to what people are talking about, Dagmar would suggest that you two, with Morton's power of detecting truth, maybe grab yourself
to roll dice.
A drink and see what the social hubbub is like while I take a brief trip to the Ericksons, which would then allow us all to go to the church before the social hours draw to a close.
That sounds like
a cold feet.
sensible.
Yeah, definitely hit the Ericksons before they rethink trusting a stranger.
Exactly.
Yeah,
just take care.
We'll walk you there, definitely. Get you to the door.
That's very kind. But I should be fine.
I guess we can see you from the
Yeah.
hotel into that house.
It's not
anyway.
far down the road. We wait till you disappear around the corner. And then we'll go in.
Someone waiting just around the corner.
Yeah.
Oh, they're safe.
Now they must be safe now. The door's just there. What can happen in those 5 steps?
They're just looking around the corner.
I mean, I would say just like that, except like not even that subtle. I can't even see it being that subtle. Just standing there like, okay. Okay. So, Morton and Quentin watch as Dagmar hurries down the street towards the Erickson house, and as Dagmar turns the corner and disappears from view, Quentin and Morton, you're going to go into the hotel, or well, into the inn.
Yes, yeah.
All right, lovely. We will follow the adventures of Dagmar first of all. As you come around the corner, you see a little house, third on the right, with red flowers outside. And there is a warm glow coming through the windows, and there is a gentle wood smoke rising from the chimney.
It's a very gentle knock on the door.
A few seconds pass before the door opens, and it opens a very, very small amount, and you see you see the features of a man. He has a gigantic bushy moustache, and he's got like a furrowed brow, and he opens the door a small amount and he peers around the door and he goes, "Yeah?"
Very sorry to disturb you this evening. I'm here to see a Mrs. Lena Erickson.
1 second. And he closes the door, and you hear the door full close, and a couple of seconds later the door reopens and a familiar face pokes round the door, and on recognizing you, Dagmar, the door opens and you are kind of sort of sucked into the house, and the door is shut behind you, and it kind of all happens quite hurriedly. Like, you kind of get that it's as soon as you're recognized, the door opens and it's kind of like quick, and then the door is shut.
Mm-hmm.
And you are you find yourself on the inside of this house. It is a small living area. There's a fireplace, there is a dining table, and there is a small old lumpy looking pair of armchairs. And you're kind of you're kind of abruptly brought into this house. The door is closed behind you, and then Lena says, "It's good of you to come. Please, make yourself comfortable. Take a seat." And you see she sort of brushes off one of the armchairs, sort of motions to it, and says, would you like a drink at all?"
I guess Dagmar, sort of before sitting down, is going to say, "There's no need for a drink. I'm sorry to disturb you. Thank you for allowing me into your home. As is customary with where I'm from, I've brought some freshly baked bread as a token of good faith for you and your family. And just pull this wrapped bread out of my knapsack and hand that over.
She takes it and says, oh gosh, thank you very much. That's very kind. And I'll just go and put it in the kitchen. You didn't want a drink?
No, on this evening, thank you for the offer, but I have many things to do. So I want to waste as little of your time as possible. If it's okay, I will take a seat.
Yes, please make yourself comfortable. And she hurries off through a door, which leads into the kitchen. When she returns, she is not alone. The gentleman with the very large moustache comes in as well, and Lena, he sits in the other armchair, and Lena grabs a chair from the dining room table, and she comes to sit down, and she says, this is my husband, Oscar. Thank you for coming. You said you were investigating.
That's correct.
Investigating Benedicta's death? The murder?
Amongst other things, yes. What do you know of what happened to Benedicta? She lives just over the road from you.
She looks at her husband, and he looks at her, and there's like a little moment, and he just shrugs at her. She says, I'm going to need to tell you a story so that you can understand. This is all connected.
Please do.
I'm going to sound a little bit crazy, but I got the feeling that, well, when you said in the mill that you might be able to help us in not just a murder case. I'm getting sidetracked. I will tell you a story. This is a tale, a legend, a fairy story about our village. Before the church, the mountain that looms over the village, you'll have seen it. You can't miss it. It's beautiful, and it is what makes Borgund such a fruitful place to live. It protects us from inclement weather. It's home. In our story, before the church was built, the mountain was home to trolls. And the people of the town were very good friends with the trolls. And the trolls were good friends with the townsfolk. And they lived in peace together. When the village people needed help, then the trolls could use their magic. And when the trolls needed the villagers, they could use their intelligence, their tools, their knowledge of the land. And little did the villagers know back then, when they were friends with the trolls, little did they know the darkness and the evil that they were so closely befriended to. For the trolls they are not of God's work. And they were set upon this earth by Satan to tempt the innocent to following a dark path and turning their faces away from God. And the village was saved by a monk, Saint Peter. He came to the village, showed the people the error of their ways, shared with them the word of God, and saved them from the evil trolls. And they built a church to honor and worship our Heavenly Father. It is the beautiful church that you see here in the middle of the town. It was the ringing of the church bells that drove the trolls away. Or at least everyone believed that they had been driven away, but there was one among them, one powerful devil. And he resisted the power of the church bell. As all his evil kin and brethren were turned to stone by the power of God and Christ, this one evil creature resisted. Legend has it that that troll cried such tears that it bore forth the river that runs next to the town. And we call the river Ensum, after that evil creature. For that creature is also Ensum. Now I know I sound a little crazy. It is a legend and a myth. We tell it to our children to stop them from gallivanting in the woods or being tempted by friendship that turns out to be that of sin. But all legends have a truth in them. And we are under the town. Everyone in it is under a curse. That evil being, that evil of the mountain has laid a curse on the town. And all of us, townsfolk, fear that Benedicta's death is related to this curse. Because it is not the only terrible thing to have befallen the town. I told you that the Kirkby child was unwell. That's not entirely true. The Kirkby have discovered that their child is a changeling. It It is a spawn of Neckens. It is evil. That terrible creature from the mountains swapped out their child without their knowledge, and all this time they have had a demon under their roof. A demon that has slowly drained the life out of Mrs. Kirkby. And only now, when things are at their most dire, have we had the blessing of the Hexerjäger come to deal with this changeling once and for all, to rid us of this terrible curse. It is the Hexerjäger you need to be helping. You have knowledge of sin and darkness and combating them. Then you must help the Hexerjäger. Whose name I now can't remember.
Morganson.
Yes, that's the one.
Yes. But that's a chilling tale indeed. For the record, I do not think you're crazy. Many legends, they always carry elements of truth in our history, but it does sound like fair reason for everyone in the village to be quite scared. I'm curious, you said that the curse and this creature was linked to Benedicta's death, is that right?
Yes.
If such things exist, Benedicta was a spiritual woman, would you say?
Yes. In a way. In her own special way. But I know these things are linked. I do not think they are. I know they to be. For Mrs. Kirkby visited Benedicta's house the night she was killed.
What was the relationship like between the Kirkbys and Benedicta?
She supplied some of the best dyes the wool mill has ever had. And she is learned in the ways of medicine. She's not a doctor, but your child has a fever or you have a wound that turns bad.
I'm just
she
curious.
Has always helped us.
I'm just curious if the Hexerjäger is here to deal with this child, or what has replaced this child. Why are they seeking Benedicta's help?
I do not know. But it cannot be mere consequence that Mrs. Kirkby was in the house the night Benedicta died.
And as intimidating and scary as this story is, how much do you know of legends of trolls and creatures?
Everything that is passed down in fairy tales. Dealing with the spawn of the devil is the Hexerjäger's work. I am
Understood.
just a mill worker. But maybe you can help us. If you have information, if you have knowledge, or must, if you can, you must help. You must help Morgan.
We're doing everything we can to not only investigate the death of Benedicta, but to help this village.
Thank you. That is very kind of you. We are
Thank you.
at this moment going to cut over to the hotel and inn to find out what on earth Quentin and Morton are up to. But before we do that, we are going to take a little break as I've overrun a little bit. So we're going to take a 15-minute break just so we can top up on our refreshments and snacks, roll some hit dice, have a short rest, and all those important things that our fabulous cast need to do. So we are going to run off. We're going to take a 15-minute break. That means that we will be back. Watch me as I failed tragically to do maths. So in 5 minutes it will be 2 minutes to 10. We'll be back at 10 minutes past 10 to find out what on earth Quentin and Morton are up to. So we shall see you then. And we are back from our short rest. We have topped up on our drinks and our consumables. We've had snacks and all the things, rolled some hit dice, got some temporary, all the shenanigans. So we are back and we are ready to pick up where we left off. Lovely, and I'm getting a huge thumbs up from my moderator because I've tweaked even more sound settings. What? Who'd have known when I started this that I would have to learn sound engineering? And we are away. So here we go with our story. We are rejoining Quentin and Morton, who have found themselves in the inn in Borgund, while Dagmar goes and speaks to the Eriksson family. So, just going to do a quick change of scene. Okay. So, as you go into the tap room at the inn, it is quite lively. There are quite a few people sitting around in little groups, socializing and drinking. Some of them appear to be passengers or travelers, as they are wearing, like traveling clothes that are quite. It's very noticeable, the travelling clothes on some of them, and the others look very much like villagers. It is quite lively. There's quite a few people here, but that liveliness is tainted with. There is a clear sort of somber note that hangs in the room. You can see that, a few groups of people are seemingly. Are either sharing stories and memories of Benedicta, or are anxiously talking about the situation that the villagers find themselves in, and so there is this sort of mixed bag in the inn, but it seems to be a sort of a safe refuge in the storm for people to come and socialize and talk about the goings on in the town.
Mm-hmm.
It is a long room that runs the entire length of the inn. There is a bar at one end, which is closest to the door. So as you come in through the door, you're almost immediately faced up to the bar. And then there's some bar seating, but then most of it is done in a very comfortable setting, with couches and armchairs and lower tables, which kind of gives you the idea that this isn't the sort of establishment that's serving food on a regular basis, or at least they're not doing sit-down meals at tables. This is definitely more of a sit and social drink with maybe just snacks. It's that kind of environment. There is a big fireplace in the middle. It is actually an open fireplace, so it's raised up on it's like a stone, big stone circle that's raised up from the floor, and in the center of it is a round hearth, and then hanging over it is like a cast iron sort of a chimney. It is very clearly, it's undoubtedly set up like a blacksmith's forge. So you've got that, like, it's raised up off the ground. There's a big pile of fuel in the middle. This is wood, and there's a fire, and then it's got that big canopy chimney over the top of it, and then the flue that rises up through the ceiling. It's not used for blacksmithing because it's clearly a wood fire, but it's that kind of design, and it is heating the entire room.
How many people would you say are in here, roughly?
I would say that there are about 12 patrons in the tap room, and it looks like there are 2 bar staff.
And
Yeah.
is it clear from a sort of scan across the room who we would consider travellers and who look like they might be more locals?
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially if we notice anyone that we saw in the wall mill.
Yeah, and that's a big yes as well. It's very easy to tell who is villager and who is traveller, and the number of travellers in the tap room is quite slim. There's only 2 tables, and out of the whole room of people, you'd say there's maybe only 3 people who are travelling. One table has got what looks to be a couple, and the other table has a middle-aged gentleman who is reading a newspaper.
Okay. I'll make it kind of obvious that we've entered and I walk confidently to the bar and then order a drink. As I do that, I want to try and be aware of whether we get noticed, as we've been seen around the town. Whether there's not like a tumbleweed moment, but something along those lines. So there's clearly we are identified as
Yeah, it's good to know.
being investigators.
Yeah, there isn't a tumbleweed moment actually. So as you sort of come in, a few faces turn to look at the door, but it's you get the impression that these are faces that are turning to see whether another friend or villager has arrived, and when they see that it isn't, they just turn back to their conversations. In fact, the reception you get here is a reception of no one seems to know who you are, and they are very much consumed in their own conversations, and sort of, obviously the recent, all the gossip of recent activities and occurrences in the town.
That is good that we weren't immediately singled out.
Yes, it is in one way, but it's also it does make it a little harder, as some people may not be willing to talk to us if they don't realise who we actually are
Well,
so easily.
we can obviously announce ourselves. There are 2 main forms of attack I like to go for in a situation like this. There's the fly on the wall. We just get a couple of drinks, sit back, listen, and see if we can pick up anything. Or the, I like to say, the drunken friend. What you need is a whiskey glass. You get the whiskey in, pour that away in a hip flask. Don't want to waste. And then refill with apple juice. As long as it's the right color. It smells of whiskey and you go make friends.
Most ingenious. So very, very clever indeed.
Just gotta hope they don't realize it's apple juice, and otherwise you do come off a bit of a fool.
I see.
My reward.
I think personally I would favour the fly on the wall approach to start with, but we can maybe talk to the bar staff. They may have some information that may help.
They do tend to hear all the bar staff. Let's get a drink, see what they know, and then sort of just listen and see what we can pick up for now.
Agreed. I don't believe we should stay here too long, though.
No.
We need to go around and see some other things. Just clean what we can and move on.
Yes, there are less in here than I originally expected. And most of those appear to be people that have worked in the mill most of the day.
Yes.
Head up to the bar then.
Head to the bar. Yeah.
Okay. Heading to the bar, there is a young, scraggly looking chap behind the bar. He has the sort of build of someone who shot up like a bean sprout and then stayed bean sprout once they had shot up. So like sort of surprisingly tall and very thin, kind of giving you that kind of wiry look about them. And they're clean shaven with sort of mousy brown hair that's sort of combed to try and look neat, but it seems it is slowly rebelling against its master. And as you come to the bar, he is cleaning. He's drying out the glasses with a cloth, and he looks up and goes, "Evening."
Good evening.
Hello. Good evening.
What can I get you?
What do you recommend on the ale front for me?
I would say the house one is the best.
Wonderful.
Do you have a dark ale of any kind? I definitely prefer a dark ale. You have one of those.
We might have salmon in a bottle somewhere. I can have a look for you.
Yes, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
And he goes first to get a tankard that he fills up with beer from a barrel that is sitting prominently on the back bar. And he hands that to you, Quentin. And then he disappears out the back for a minute or two before reappearing with a slightly dusty-looking dark glass bottle that he pops open and pours into a tankard. It's probably not as dark as you were hoping for it to be. It's definitely headed more into ruby than into really dark. But he looks pretty he's pretty proud of himself that he's managed to find you something dark, and he plonks that down on the bar for you and says,
I'd pick it up and sort of take a little look at it and raise an eyebrow, but put it back down and go, "Oh, thank you."
"Is that everything, or anything else?"
I mean, feel free to get yourself one as well if you would like. We're very thankful that you found a drink for my friend here.
Oh, thank you very much. It's very kind of you.
And I'll put the appropriate coinage down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not going to check your resources, because...
What do you mean?
What do I mean?
I'm far from 10.
Yeah, I know you're far from 10.
Far from 1 as well.
Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Respectable middle.
Before he runs off, I think Morton will sort of say, "Oh, is this busy for this time of day, or
It's a bit quiet, actually."
It's quiet. Would that have something to do with today's events, do you think?
Yeah, I reckon so. It's hard to come out and be happy when sad things happen.
Yes. I take it you knew the lady concerned.
Yes. And God rest her soul, we all knew her.
I believe she was well liked in the town.
Absolutely, she was. A sad day now she's gone.
Yes, I'm sure it will be. Or I'm sure it is. Would you have any ideas what he would do, or why such a thing would happen?
Bad Bad things happen, don't they, in the world? And we have got a train line running through. My pa always did say that train line would bring trouble. Opens us up to the wider world.
Well, I take it that would be a good thing for business, though, surely.
Yeah, great for business. But we get a lot of strangers coming and going on that train.
No,
And
I
now
see,
look, something sad has happened. Doubtless it's one of them strangers from the train.
Do you think? You really think so?
Of course I think so. Ain't gonna be none of us townsfolk.
Why's that?
Because we're good people.
It is very rare to find a town where everyone is good. It's nice to hear that there is.
I mean, don't get me wrong, we have all of our normal troubles, you know. Someone's got, sticky fingers and the like, but there ain't no murderers here in this town. Good, God-fearing folk, all of us.
Yes, I believe you are, with such a fantastic church in the town.
It is the jewel of the town, is that?
Does no one follow the old ways?
Nah, we haven't had any of those okey pokes in this town for generations. Not since that St. Peter came and saved us from the devils in the mountains. Or that's what the story goes, that's what the story says.
Ah, that's a very interesting story. So what are these devils? I don't think we would have heard that story.
It's just a fairy story. We had some devils in the mountains and a good God-fearing monk came with the word of the Lord and saved us. It's, one of those stories you tell children with morals.
And do you believe the story, or do you believe it to be just a fairy tale?
It's just a legend, innit? I believe there might be some truth in it. We know the saint did come here, and that's why the church was built.
Well, at least that bit's true, I suppose.
These
Does seem a
devils-
bit far-fetched to me.
Yes,
That's
I
one that
don't coin into all this supernatural stuff. I think the only devils are found in the hearts of men.
Well, thank you. I think I shall kind of find somewhere to sit. It's been most enlightening speaking to you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Enjoy your beers.
And you.
And I look around to see for a table or somewhere to sit that is sort of close enough to 2 or 3 different conversations. if possible.
Yeah.
You want to find a good stakeout spot.
Yeah, good little spot to sit and just sort of savour a beer for some period of time.
Absolutely. And it's very easy to find. It's very easy to find a nice comfortable table that you can plonk yourselves down at, where you can overhear some of the conversations that are going on around you. As you savour your beers and listen in, there are 3 tables that you can overhear. And they're having 3 different conversations. The first table, which seems to comprise a group of similarly aged men and women, are all of them talking about how tragic today's events are, and they are seemingly sharing stories of Benedicta between them all. And there is a noticeable theme that keeps reoccurring. Everyone remembers at some time in their life Benedicta curing them of being very unwell in some shape or form. So the stories are, the stories are things like, oh, do you remember, Vida, when you got that terrible fever and you could barely walk, and Benedicta came and with her herbs, and she sorted you right out. They're the sort of stories that they are seeming to be sharing.
And they all seem to have one of those stories.
Yeah.
Okay. Brings validity to her, at least.
And when they're talking in these stories, are they the symptoms that they're talking about? Are they similar symptoms each time?
No, all sorts of different things.
Okay.
Like having a terrible fever, having a gammy leg. That time you cut your hand open and it went all gross. And all such different conversations, and illnesses, but they are all the common theme of all of them is that Benedicta healed them. The other table, so that's the first table. The second table is a group of older gentlemen who are all of them theorizing as to who they think did it. All of them, barring one, are attesting to it has to be someone from the train. But there is one older gentleman who disagrees. And when he's questioned as to who he thinks did it, he goes along the lines of saying, I don't know who I think did it, but the train, that's an easy coincidence. It's like the perfect cover story. It's too easy.
I would nod. Yeah. Whilst listening to this, in kind of acknowledgement of that, I kind of in my head I agree. I was nodding away.
Vince so subtle, just one hand up, like
empty glass.
Yeah.
Leaning closer.
Yeah.
And they go, oh yeah.
The third table, on the other hand, are not talking about the murder at all. They are busy talking about their relief that the Hexerjäger has arrived to deal with the Kirkeby child. And this group of people they're all talking about how glad they are that the Hexerjäger has come to deal with the Kirkeby child. And they're doing the thing of, I always knew there was something wrong with that child. I always suspected that the devil was involved somehow. And they're being irritating to listen to because they're not actually talking about any facts facts or examples or situations. They're just all of them in agreement that they all knew something was wrong with this child and that it was to do with the devil. And they're glad that finally a Hexajäger has come who can sort the child out.
You know, that kind of talk that you're like, oh, there could be something here, and it just never happens.
Yeah, nothing ever comes of it.
No substance. Did find it very interesting at the bar that this is there is definitely no one following the old ways.
It does seem very, but then with the church like this, I would imagine everybody has converted.
Benedicta's house didn't strike me as overtly Christian there, with the troll cross and such.
No, he struck me as someone who may well have followed the old ways. And it definitely seems to be. He seems to be well liked in the village. He was well, definitely helping out people in the village. So I don't see any reason for the people to kill her. I definitely, there is definitely something with the child, I believe, that could cause a problem. And it could be something to do with this.
Someone we've not seen, they are mentioned a lot.
Yes.
That family is brought up, it seems, every other sentence in this town.
They are the main employer here, but there is some other controlling factor.
Yes.
And I think the Hexajäger's got to be our next port of call now. We need to go and speak to them and find out what information they may be able to pass our way, and even help in some way.
Yes, if they've been inside that household, then they are definitely one person that I want to talk to. Do hope Dagmar is okay, though.
And
Yes,
with that, let's scene swipe. We cut to the inside of this.
The camera goes out of the bar down the street. Pans to the door.
It pans to the fireplace, and we see the roaring flames, and then it pans back out and of the fireplace in the Eriksson house. And Dagmar, you are you're sitting in this very old, lumpy armchair, having just heard this fairy tale, this legend of the town, and how it is having real implications in modern day times, creating a sense of fear in the Eriksson family. Fear so much so that they are utterly convinced that there is a terrible curse placed upon this town, and they are beseeching you, if you are able to help the Hexajäger, to do so.
So I guess after they'd regaled us with this quite chilling story, I guess, Dagmar's going to offer some reassurance to them, because it's clearly stressful. In the sense of just saying, I appreciate that that is not a story that people always feel comfortable telling to strangers. As I said, me and my party, we're here investigating. Sometimes we investigate things that aren't necessarily considered normal.
This is why I shared the story with you. I got that feeling in the mill that you might be able to help.
And absolutely, we would be happy to try. I appreciate you being honest with me. If there is anything I can do for you or your family while we are here that would help calm you, please do tell me. But in the meantime, I think it's only right that I rejoin my party, as we have an urgent appointment with this Hexajäger.
Yes, absolutely. We understand.
So Dagmar's kind of going to raise out of their chair and gently make their way to the door.
And you're followed by Lena, who opens the door for you. Lena's husband, as you go to leave, says, "Will you be okay getting to the inn, or would you like me to walk you there for safety?"
The inn is only just round the corner. I'm sure I'll be fine. I'm not the weakest of people, and I've travelled the world somewhat. I'm sure I can protect myself.
Okay.
And just like as opening the door, Dagmar's just going to turn around and just gently say, "The name Ericsson, did you perchance have a relative somewhere near Bergen who was a baker?"
There's a little pause. And Lena looks to her husband. And he thinks for a moment, and then he says, "I don't think so."
That's a shame. I knew someone of that name in that town. They were kind. It's a name that I always associate with politeness and welcoming. May that be of some comfort to you.
It is a good, strong, and old name.
With that, I'm off in it.
I'm off in it! Out into the streets of Borgund.
Just as I leave, I'm just going to immediately look across at Benedicta's house just to see, is there anything outside?
No, there isn't.
Well, that's that. Fuck them. Onwards.
No, all the lights are off. There's nothing outside. If you squint very carefully, you do see that there is a police officer who... There's a constable who looks like they've sat themselves up in the doorway of Benedicta's house and maybe dozing.
Captain's away.
Having possibly noted that might be the case, I still think Dagmar's priority will be collecting their party.
All right. To the inn!
To the pub!
You walk through. It's not a very long walk at all. You can literally, it's spitting distance. But as you turn the corner to walk towards the inn, there is a little moment where Dagmar pauses and turns around. And for the first time since they arrived in Borgund, really take in the scenery with this added knowledge that this mountain has got such a story or potentially history steeped into it. And in the failing light, as the first of the evening stars begin to come out, this shadow of a mountain towers up into the sky, and contrary to the feeling and the theme of the fairy tale told by Lena, the mountain feels like a guardian, like a sentinel. It stands watch over the town. There's no threatening mystery or unknown of the wild that that shrouds this mountain and makes Dagmar feel nervous. Quite the opposite. Feels like an old guardian standing watch.
Is it just the shadow of a mountain? There's no light of maybe someone having lit a fire up there, or
Nope.
anything glinting. It's just a calming guardian shadow.
It's just a calming guardian shadow of this beautiful sort of mountain landscape that frames the view of you get from this town. And kind of turning back round, having seen the view, Dagmar makes their way to the inn. Do you just stroll right in, like?
Bold as brass.
In we go.
It could be redefined as heroically arrives.
You do the thing with the doors, or you like push in, like really like impressively.
Not necessarily impressively, just with one hand on one door, as far as the door will go, and then continue to walk, assuming that door is going to shut itself.
Absolutely. The arrival of Dagmar immediately catches your attention, Quentin and Morton.
Give a little nod if they look in our direction.
I think Morton would just raise his hand. When he saw Dagmar. And almost beckon her or them across. Yep.
Yeah.
Come over here.
Dagmar's scanning the room, sees the beckon,
Ignores
rolls
it.
their eyes slightly.
But it was so polite.
Dagmar, do you go over to the table?
Yep.
Yeah.
Straight to the table.
Okay. You head over to the table, and the three of you are reunited, sitting at the table in the tap room of this inn. The conversation kind of carries on around you, all in a similar vein to how the conversation has been, just with added, as people drink a little bit more, there's a bit more town gossip. And it's definitely gossipy. It turns into it's less useful information about your case and more things like there might be a couple of scandals brewing in this town.
And always worth knowing.
Yeah, there might be a couple of scandals in this town. There is, a few names are cast in aspersion that maybe they have had a run-in with someone from the train.
Could be any of them.
Someone from the train. Because not only does that bring bad people, it brings affairs.
Yeah.
Where's Heat magazine when you need it?
This is it. This is Heat magazine right here, the tap room of the inn.
Ye old gossip girl.
I think Morton would be quite eager to move on as he sees the converse or hears the conversation kind of deteriorate a little bit into not particularly helpful and gossipy. So I'm going to say, I believe we've gained everything that we're going to gain here. If we're not going to speak to these people to interrogate them further, which I do not think will help us, I believe we should go and find this Hexjäger as soon as possible.
Gents, I think that is a fine idea. I have a little bit of information from my discussion with the Eriksons, but I think we should save that conversation where there aren't so many ears.
Yes. Maybe we can discuss it on the way over to see the Hexjäger.
Wow, that sounds a good plan.
You are conscious that you are now in late evening. Many people in the town will have already retired or will be very close to in the process of considering retiring to bed.
Ex-Jaeger. Well, they're working hours.
Churches have church staff tend to have responsibilities up until 11, 12 o'clock, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, we are still firmly in the area of there is someone in the church all the time. Like, you could go up to the church and bang on the doors and ask for sanctuary, and there should be someone there all the time.
There's
But that
no
would
harm.
be the church staff, not necessarily a Hexajäger.
No harm in trying.
If the Hexajäger is investigating as this similar occurrences, I believe they will probably be the same as us, and considering their options and researching what they need to know and preparing themselves until late in the evening before they take any rest, I would have thought. So let's head over there, and if they turn us away, we'll have to think of another plan and come back another day.
Works for me.
Yes. We get to discuss what Dagmar learned anyway.
All right.
Maybe see some more of the town.
You finish your drinks and head out of the inn and back out onto the roads of Borgund. Night is upon you at this point. It's not dark yet, still. It's a weird twilight now because it's very long days. But the coolness of night is beginning to rise up from the ground. Kind of lets you all... It's a very gentle notice to you all that night is coming, that it is very close at hand. The streets are mostly empty. You do see the odd townsperson seemingly making their way home, having visited a friend or been to the inn. There are a couple of stragglers leaving the wool mill, who begin making their way to one of the houses in the town. But it's very quiet, and there's nothing strange or suspicious about the people that you see. It feels like the normal street traffic for this time of the evening. The church looms in the twilight with its really beautiful, majestic spires and its really beautiful shape. And it is very... It is lit inside, but very faintly so, as if there were only maybe a few candles dotted around, lighting the inside of the church, and it gives it this sort of warm and gentle, quite appealing glow that kind of adds to the overall beauty of this church. And you make your way around the walls of the church towards the entrance, which is a big stone archway that leads from the road onto a path that seems to skirt all the way around the church through the graveyard.
Look, sheep.
There are graves. But it seems to skirt all the way around the church, navigating through the graveyard. Boop. Navigating its way through the graveyard. Now, the path that you're standing at the archway, the path in front of you leads straight to a pair of huge double doors that are clearly the main entrance to the church.
Mm-hmm.
Well, shall
Is
we
there any
approach?
activity around the church at all?
No, none at all. It is sleepy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's
Yeah.
approach.
Mm-hmm.
I think Morton will just sort of start walking forwards towards the doors unless anybody tells him otherwise.
Before we talk to anyone in here, my conversation with the Erickson family was morbid, if not a little bit fantastical.
Mm-hmm.
The village seems to be very nervous about an old legend of how this village came to be.
Would that be to do with St. Peter?
Exactly.
Bartender
fam-
mentioned.
The family told me a lot about the legend of this village, and that Saint Peter built this church to drive that spirit away. Apparently that mountain, Dagmar points at the big comforting guardian mountain, was home to trolls, and it was the church that eradicated all the trolls from this village, apart from one.
Uh-huh. One remains, or did remain.
So the legend tells. But they did mention a name. Apparently the river is named after said troll, and I thought it interesting. Correct me if I'm wrong, Quentin, but there was a name in the letter that we found in that chest, is that correct?
Yes, Ensign.
It's the exact same name I was given for this troll.
Hmm.
This
That
village is
does-
clearly very religious, and they're scared of that story, and this Hexjäger is apparently their saviour. And they are also very nervous about the Kirkby child, who apparently has been directly influenced by this creature.
Benedicta's house did have the troll crosses and such.
Who did.
It would-
But for such a religious family, I thought not to inquire necessarily about that.
Yes, of course. Yes, the barkeep did state that nobody follows the old gods here anymore. They're all good God-fearing folk, apparently.
Yes, this is true. And he didn't give us anywhere near that kind of detail. He just said it's a fairy tale and parts of it are true because the monk must have came here to build a church.
The
Let's bear that
Kirkby
in
child
mind.
is influenced by devil. That may explain why he was so cagey around us about everything. Especially if Benedicta does have some form of link to this ensign.
Exactly.
Seems we will have to tread very, very carefully.
Let's find out what this Hexjäger knows.
You approach the double doors of the church, and I imagine knock firmly.
Yes.
I'm looking at Dagmar, who I feel is
Down the door.
it's just like bang, bang, bang. The door is opened after a short wait by an older gentleman in a priest's gown. Is it a gown? I'm gonna have to Google the vestments of the clergy. Priest vestments. We're gonna go with vestments, clothes. He's dressed as a priest. There you go.
Yeah.
It's just some random dude found a priest out.
I know, right? He is dressed as a priest, and he pops his head around the door, and he says, "Good evening.
Good evening.
How can I help you? Are you in need of the church?"
Loving the voice. We are here to see the Hexieger, if they are about.
I'm afraid that she is busy at the moment.
Can I inquire as to what they're doing?
They're spending time in prayer and researching the words of our Holy Father, so cannot be disturbed.
You know when they will be finished with their prayer and research?
I'm afraid I do not. It could take most of the night, but it is tradition to break for breakfast.
I see.
Maybe come by after that tomorrow.
If they do break sooner, please let them know that Quentin Ludensberg has been by to discuss this unfortunate series of unfortunate events in this place.
He sort of nods, and it's the sort of absent-minded nod where you're not sure if they're nodding at you, if they're just nodding. You don't know if they're listening.
Can we keep him?
But and then he says, "I will indeed pass the message on."
Thank you, Father. Assuming that's the rank.
It's Hovden. Father Hovden.
A big thank you for your time, sir, and we shall return in the morning.
Yes, do that. God bless and good night.
Good night. And
he closes the large church door that was propped open. Through the church door, you did see the inside of the church, which was it was softly lit by a few candles dotted around, and it is the inside is a really beautiful stave church interior. So the entire inside of the church is made out of wood, and the woodworking is like incredible.
Well, that certainly is a shame, but I rather fear we'd get off on the wrong foot if we disturbed her during her time of prayer and reflection. It probably wouldn't set us up in good stead.
I totally agree. It wasn't just we needed to take the chance. If
Yes.
she had taken to meet us, it would have helped move things on. But maybe we should just take a rest.
Can Dagmar just do a quick lap around the church to see if they see anything?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sheep.
A lot of the windows in the church are quite high, so you don't get a great vantage point inside the church. When you do a quick lap all the way around it, there isn't anything unusual or suspicious or untoward in the graveyard or the churchyard or the church itself.
Okay.
It's very pretty.
Pretty.
I would definitely be interested to walk closely past the Kirkby house when we head back. See if we can hear anything.
So do you make your way back to the train?
Are we gonna take it in turns staking out Benedictus?
I'm kind of thinking that there's a policeman out the front of Benedicta's house,
But not at the back.
but nobody around the back.
Yeah.
And I think it would be remiss of us not to at least
They sort of-
if we know somebody searched that building,
Yeah.
and they
Near the
might try to return.
stream.
Yeah,
Would they have been? Did we see if they would have been like easy to sort of like hide behind, or such? A good spot that we could get a good vantage on the property from behind, but not be immediately spotted ourselves.
I mean, yes, you could do.
but also that don't forget there was our little creature friends that we saw in there. I wonder whether they may have tried to return at some point or return. It might be worth our while to stake out, maybe to try and encounter them again, and they may be able to offer us information on
Maybe.
either the murder or more storytelling
Mm-hmm.
to give us a greater understanding of what is going on in this village.
We could have a quick look inside before setting up.
So what are you doing then?
We're gonna.
Inside.
Do you still want to go back past the?
Yeah, I would like to
Kirkby's
circle
house.
past the Kirkby's just to see, especially if. Yeah, to see if there's any like shouting or anything of that sort. We heard like obviously the kid was quite ill and stuff like that. Were we told that the kid was having like night terrors and stuff?
Yeah, there's going to have a little sneak
Acting
around their property.
strangely, so especially if it's nighttime.
Yeah,
if we hear
yeah.
No little sneaky.
Okay.
I would agree. Yeah, night terrors, fevers and dreams, hysteria.
All right then.
Yeah, none of them sound particularly quiet.
So you're going to head out of the churchyard and round to the Kirkby house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What is this house here? I assume
the
it's
corner.
nothing. Just a random
Who knows?
house or... Ooh. Suspicious.
There is nothing untoward or suspicious about the Kirkby house. All of the lights are off, so there's no light from the house, barring from a single room on the ground floor, which has the very sort of dying flickers of a fire that has been stoked down for when people go to sleep. But it's quiet. Picturesque, almost.
Fine line between quiet and too quiet.
I mean, apart from when people are sleeping.
Mhm.
It's just a Kirkby, a snorer.
What are you hoping to hear, Quentin? If we're not going to be going in, which I presume we're not going to go, we're all breaking and entering during the night. I don't expect we'll glean much from the outside.
It was more to see if there was any sort of civil unrest in the household, anything to explain the cuts. So, thought I'd give him benefit of the doubt. Maybe he argues with his wife a lot, or if their child does have night terrors and we could hear screaming the place down, maybe they came trying to calm them. Yes, just wanted to hear if there was anything. I thought we're walking past anyway. It's always worth circling around.
Understood.
Well, let's continue checking some of our places of interest as we return to retire for the evening,
Yeah.
or stake out, as Morton suggests.
Stake out.
Okay. The wool mill is quiet. There's nothing moving. There's no steam or smoke rising from any of the chimneys. All is quiet in the Kirkby wool mill. Continuing on.
Next.
Yep.
Next. Benedicta's house. Clearly, the constable who was dozing in the doorway has been either replaced or awoken by some backup, as there is a police officer standing by the door, now awake and kind of looking, just kind of keeping an eye out, looking at the roads. And as you approach, you garner the attention of the constable, who watches you walk along the road with not suspicion, but he's definitely keeping an eye on you, like noting your passage as, like, you know, in his mind. So should there be any mystery tomorrow, he'll remember, like, he's intently taking details, like, in his mind, like what you look like, how many, what the time is, that sort of thing.
Morton would stop when we get there and go, all quiet around the house? Have you seen any activity? Did you get any information passed on from your previous constable?
What, you mean our Sleeping Beauty?
Yes.
Yeah, sadly, no information from Dreamland. But I can assure you I will be keeping my eyes on the property, and it is all quiet.
Super. Glad to hear that somebody is a bit more responsible, has taken charge.
And where would you three be going at such an hour? I'm assuming back to the train to retire for the evening.
We've been walking our surroundings, just seeing what we can find. May do a quick lap of the perimeter here, just to make sure. Retrace my steps. Find it really gets the brain working.
Well, carry on. And the constable kind of motions for you to carry on about your business.
Have the curtains been closed again since earlier when we were in there?
No.
Okay. So if we walk around the building, we can look in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't
That's
look...
very useful.
The curtains that you opened have been left open, giving you the sensation that no one has been in there since you.
Is the body still in the same place, if we can see it? In the moonlight.
Yes.
Is it sitting up?
It's just waving slowly at us.
Yeah. Smiling.
Shall we
Everything
retire
in
for
there
the
is
evening,
it's untouched as you left it.
As we left it.
Mm.
We'll have that
Oh, well.
final discussion. What do we want to do? Are we just going to retire for the evening
Yeah,
and continue our investigations tomorrow?
I think there are a couple of people that we do need to speak to tomorrow morning, so it's been a busy day. I'm going to retire.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose we should be fresh and ready for our investigations tomorrow.
Mhm.
We're not going to gain any more tonight.
Okay. To the train then. You make your way back to the train to retire for the evening. Heading to your various coach rooms, you make your way to your own rooms and to bed, so that you can ruminate on the events of the previous day and get some well-needed rest, so that you can continue your investigation in the morning. You all sleep. Go.
Before Dagmar does settle down for the evening in the privacy of their own room, Dagmar wants to have a little look through the book about vengeful spirits.
Mm-hmm. It is a very interesting read that answers many questions that you have had for a very long time, but it creates more questions than it answers, including who on earth wrote this book, and how many people must know about this for there to... Go on.
The book doesn't have a named author.
No.
Is there any symbology on it or anything like that?
It is full of all sorts of symbolism, symbology, runes. There's like, some of it is like recipes, some of it is like a diary, some of it is like an informational like textbook. Some of it seems even like it's like a science book, or like, you know, some sort of like encyclopedia.
So, does it have anything in there about trolls?
It doesn't. It doesn't have anything in it about trolls or the little creatures that you saw in Benedicta's house. What it does have in it is a rather large chapter and section about vengeful spirits and blue flames.
And does it also give information as to how to either hunt or appease?
It does indeed. But not... It doesn't feel complete. It feels like there's another book that's missing, or there's... The book kind of goes, and you will need to do this, and then doesn't explain how to do that. So it
But
feels
there's no
like
clue.
yeah.
There's no clue about something that maybe adjoins to this book.
You feel like you've got a piece of maybe a collection.
Okay.
But it's certainly some of the very vivid descriptions conjure quite intense memories.
Well, after that lovely light bedtime reading, I guess Dagmar will sleep then.
You awake in the morning, refreshed and raring to go. Quentin and Morton arise early and first and head to the breakfast car to grab food before they head out to continue their investigation. When you arrive at the restaurant car, you are greeted by the gregarious, lovable head waiter who navigates you to a table, provides you with coffee and politely explains what the breakfast options are, and is very excited to tell you that they have some local lefse available.
God, I hate this guy.
You order your breakfasts, whatever it is that you desire, and not long after, Dagmar arises and appears in the restaurant cart and is confronted again by the very loud and gregarious individual who tries to purloin off various breakfast items. As you sit down for breakfast and begin to plan your next course of actions, there is a commotion on the platform. There are several police officers moving up and down the platform suddenly. And the door to the restaurant opens, and in strolls 2 constables. And one of the constables says, "I'm sorry to interrupt everyone's breakfast. There has been an incident in the town. Someone has been murdered, and the train is now in lockdown. Please remain calm. The train guards will distribute information and let you know what it is that we need you to do as we begin investigating this murder." And as the 3 of you sit there, jarred by incredible deja vu at the scene that is unfolding, it is there that we're going to leave this evening's session.
Oh,
Hey!
Thank you.
So many questions.
Oh God.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
As always, GM, you're amazing.
Oh,
incredible.
thank
Fucking
you.
incredible.
Didn't see that coming at all.
Nope.
Well,
Should we have bets? Should we have bets as to who's been killed this time?
Well, rule number
I-
1.
I-
one of
I-
us 3.
Yeah. Not one of us, no.
it's not one of you.
I want to know where the constable went on their hot date.
We might already know.
We'll never know.
Yes, you might already know who's been killed.
That's
was
my
gonna-
worry.
That's was going to be my first question, but we'll move on. We'll see that for next
Well, you'll have to tune in next week
next week.
Yeah.
to find
What
out
do you
what on earth
mean
is
we're
happening.
now on lockdown?
Well, next week we will find out. I'm going to say a huge thank you to the amazing cast that we have had at the Society this evening. I'm going to go top down on the screen that I have. So, Dan, Divin Inc., who are you? Where can we find you?
I'm Dan, also known as Divin Inc. Thanks, Loki. So I am Divin Inc. I'm a variety streamer who can also be found on Twitch via Div and Inc. Thank you for the shout out, Mikey. I can also be found on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok under Div and Inc. And I guess I'll take the chance to thank our lovely moderator, Mutinous Mikey, who's also a fantastic variety streamer. Mikey should shout himself out. Whether he can, we'll find out soon.
Shameless plug.
Yes, shameless plug.
Self-promote.
And I'm not going to shame the moderator by being like, I think there's a code issue with Nightbot.
Shh. Everything works perfectly.
No, he was definitely last playing $Twitch trouser game.
I read that first of all as the Twitch trouser game, and I was like, what is this? I was like, what is the Twitch trouser game, and why am I not playing it?
You don't want to know.
100% accurate.
I know, right?
Best system ever.
Gus, who are you? Where can we find you?
Yeah, I'm Gus, and I've been playing Morton, and you like as I say, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook if you really want to, but I don't post anything about games, so not really that interesting. I just enjoy playing. Again, thanks to Loki and the invite, and the great players here as well. Really enjoying it. Thank you.
Absolutely, I love this every week. It's just like, you can come find me, but I'm very boring. Matt, who are you? Where can we find you?
Oh, very, very similar story to Gus. I go by @Matty_Hop on a few different things, or I will do when I've finished updating everything. Mainly Twitter and Instagram. I post the odd story, but at the moment it's once a week to say we're going live on this. So, I'm a decent alarm clock for Vaesen going live.
Considering it's called social media, none of us are very social, are we?
No, anti-social media.
I think, honestly, nowadays it's a little bit rare when you have someone who's like, yeah, I'm elbows deep in social media, and you're always like, are you not on a detox?
If you want, you can send me a telegram.
Or,
this is my facts.
I heard a term today that I fell in love with, doom scrolling.
Ooh.
Doom scrolling, when you just scroll through social media and all you see is the doom.
Yeah.
The doom. Yeah. That's our lovely cast. Thank you so much for coming along and being ridiculous and playing this crazy game.
We all just want to thank you again for setting this up.
Oh, thank you very much. Well,
the whole evening fucking with us in the most wonderful way.
All the time, everywhere. I super look forward to seeing you all next week when we can work out what on earth is happening. But for now, we're going to say goodbye, and I'm going to hit up with the credits. So see you later, cast.
Bye.
And to the credits. This is where I do this thing where I try and read, talk, and hear voices all at the same time. So please bear with me. The Society would like to say a huge thank you to Shusha UK for her amazing character art. All of the we didn't see any token art today. The artwork that we saw in the intro video was all done by Shusha. You can head over to her website at Instagram. It's at Shusha UK to see all of her incredible and amazing artwork and all of the amazing things that she makes. Johan Egerkrans is the original creator of the Vaesen book, which inspired the RPG game. So a huge thank you and shout out to Johan Egerkrans for basically being Vaesen Daddy and creating all of this, setting the foundations for all of this shenanigans. And if we're going to say thank you to Johan Egerkrans, then a huge thank you to Free League Publishing, who are the creators of the Vaesen RPG using their incredible Year Zero engine. You can head over to their websites. You can see them now scrolling, or they're in the chat, or in the YouTube description below. Go and check out Free League Publishing for their other amazing games like the Alien RPG, the Blade Runner RPG, and their Lord of the Rings, among many others. Roll20 was our virtual tabletop for this evening, and we used it for their character sheets and their dice roller, which we saw this evening. Tabletop Audio contributed to the amazing ambient sounds and the music that you heard this evening, and that was via the Roll20 jukebox. You can hit Tabletop Audio up at tabletopaudio.com. There was also music from Kevin MacLeod, which is also available via the Roll20 jukebox, or you can head over to their website at incompetech.com. All of the virtual tabletop, that's what VTT means for those who asked me the other week, all of the virtual tabletop maps were created by me using Dungeon Fog and the incredible assets that they have there. Keep your eyes peeled on our social media for some exciting news about the Society and Dungeon Fog. Our OBS overlays were created by myself using the Valhyr Runic translator, and the intro music was created by me using Music Maker Jam. So head over to those things if you want to use any of these incredible resources that we have used in our stream for this evening. I just want to say another huge thank you to our cast and our players this evening, and to all of the team at Society for making this possible, and of course to you, our incredible viewers, who really, you're the reason why we do all of this shenanigans over Twitch, so that you can see these crazy and bonkers stories that we are telling. And now, drum roll please, for the favourite bit of our stream every week. The spirits! You see the spirits! Give it here, you. That's my fabulous moderator being super helpful. Okay, so. Ooh. So we're going to raid out. So /RAID. This is where I hear voices in my head giving me instructions on how to be a pro streamer. So it looks like I know what I'm doing when actually I don't have a clue. So we are going to G Game Knights with a K, as in Knights of Old, and they are playing Blade in the Dark. Let's see if this works. I think it has worked. I'm very excited. I'm just going to say one last huge thank you to everyone, and I hope to see you next week, where we will continue with our ridiculous, mysterious, terrifying, and dark stories. So until next week, see you then.